What's up, YouTube? Back, another video. And as you can tell by the title, we'll talk about which is more safe, trikes, specifically Spyders, Rikers, RTs, or two-wheelers. So, first of all, let me just explain that I'm not gonna talk about riding styles. We're just gonna talk about the inherent qualities of the two types of motorcycles, trikes and two-wheelers. If you do like the content, please like, subscribe, notifications, yada yada yada. So let's kick it off. I might be a little biased, but yes, I think that trikes in general are okay, let's get in front of him, are safer than two-wheelers. Now, that's being said, let's just say that if you operate them normally. I watch a lot of videos on motorcycle crashes. Don't ask me why, I just do. So this is my unscientific analysis. What I see the most is low sides. If you're not sure what a low side is, it's basically you lose traction and the bike falls over. I don't think it's exactly the same as dropping your bike when you're not moving, but let's just say you're moving and you drop your bike. So here we have a curve coming up straight ahead. Okay, so if you're on two wheels, you start leaning into the curve, and let's just say there's oil, gravel, what have you, tar snakes, and the wheels basically slide out from underneath you. Now, the thing with this is you're only falling the distance from your shoulder to the ground. So the fall itself, probably not that bad, you know, distance-wise. Now, the worst part is, well, there's two bad parts. Number one, the bike lands on top of you. You got an 800-pound bike. For those international people, I don't know what that is in metric, but let's say you have an 800-pound bike. It lands on your leg. You could snap an ankle, break a leg bone. So that's one thing. Putting a lot of weight on your bones is not helpful. The second thing is really just depending on how fast you're going. And that leads to road rash and loss of skin, maybe muscle, who the hell knows. So that's basically you sliding on this very aggressively gridded road. That's probably the number one risks on two wheels. And it all comes down to a lack of traction or loss of traction. Being that I'm on three wheels, you can't, I'm not going to say you could never do it because never say never, but there's really not a mechanism for you to fall. You could fall off, but if you're coming around a curve, the geometry doesn't lend itself for the bikes falling out from underneath you. Okay, now it might slide, it might skid, that's a different story, but I don't really see a way of you low-siding a trike. Okay, not that it can't happen, I just don't see it happening, or the way it happens isn't the same as two wheels. The second thing, probably the worst, is a high side. Okay, so if you don't know what a high side is, in a nutshell, you basically lose traction and then regain traction, and the wheels catch and you get launched. And then you now have a height injury because you're going to go flying. And then once you hit the ground, depending on how fast you're going, you slide down the ground. So you got the high side, the low side. Can you high side a trike? I think that you could do. I think that you could do. You could get yourself into a situation where the trike goes sideways, the wheels catch the traction, and then you roll over, basically. Is it likely? I don't. Like I said, I've seen a lot more low sides than high sides. High sides are particularly brutal. I haven't seen too many. I haven't seen any videos on trike accidents so far in my perusing that didn't involve collisions. Okay, so right there you got on the low side, I guess you got a point to the trike. High side, I still think you got a point to a trike. Now, another thing with trikes that's a huge benefit of having three wheels is stopping. The stopping on these things is quite impressive. Now, if you ride two wheels, you'll definitely notice it more, that when you hit the, you hit your front brake, you're transferring the weight from the back to the front, and that gives you more traction, gives you more stopping power. Well, this is basically true for any type of vehicle. Whenever you hit the brakes, weight transfers to the front, and then you get more traction and more stopping, because traction is friction. Friction is really just a matter of surface area and pressure. You want a simple experiment, put your hand on the table and pull it. No resistance. If you just take that same hand and you press it down and try to pull it, it's going to take a lot more, well, not a lot more, it's going to take more effort to pull your hand now. Your hand didn't change, nothing else changed, all that changed was how much weight. That being said, a heavier vehicle will have more traction, all things the same, than a lighter vehicle. Like, I should have a lot of traction because I'm very fat, so my fatness is holding me to the ground. All your performance parameters come down to your contact with the ground. So like I said, ooh, don't back into me, please. Yeah, always a Mercedes. Always. Sorry about that interruption. So what are we talking about? Brakes. So you also have two calipers on the front, one on the back. So that's a lot of brakes. It's one more than a two-wheeler has. And then once you hit the brakes, and if you're going to hit them hard, you're going to transfer the weight to the front, and now you have two tires up front. Obviously you won't have as much braking on the back. Okay, all the Trikes in the Can Am lineup have ABS. I think that's becoming more of a common thing on regular motorcycle two-wheelers, but it's basically standard on Can Am Trikes. So you got that going for you. So in most cases, I think braking on a trike is better than two wheels. One thing is the maneuverability of a trike. There is definitely more nimbleness on two wheels than three. And if going faster won't help you, if slowing down won't help you, maybe avoiding the situation by turning, weaving, etc. might save you. Definitely more nimble than a trike. So I'm going to give a point to the two-wheelers on being more nimble in avoiding situations. Visibility. Okay, we'll go with visibility. These are wider, quite frankly. They all have lights on the two front tires that are, or two front fenders that are set wide. Yeah. So maybe I won't give a point on this one because I'm not really sure, but I do think that the trike is a little bit more visible than two-wheelers. And I think a big problem with the visibility is not that you're not seen, it's a perception. Being that trikes and motorcycles in general are smaller, your general perception from looking at cars in mirrors is that they're further away. And a lot of motorcyclists have a habit of going a lot faster than regular four wheels. So therefore, maybe the motorist isn't aware of how fast you're coming up on them. So they go and do their merge, not realizing you're going 100 miles an hour in a 65. And then you blame them. You know, they saw you, they looked. But, you know, being that you're far away and going really fast, doesn't register that you're coming up. And they don't realize that you're going to be there at the same time they are. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Here's a funny one, because what I'm going to mention now is also the bane of every Can Am owner. It's the VSS. Now, a lot of people wish that there was a button that you could press and turn it off. You know, and I can understand that. It does keep you from doing some fun things. But it does serve a purpose, okay? It does serve a purpose, and probably, on the whole, better off having it than not. So what is the VSS? Vehicle Stability System. It's something that they put into these Can-Ams to keep them from flipping over. That's basically what it comes down to. So you already have the speed sensors from the ABS on the three wheels. So your trike knows how fast each wheel is going. Okay? There's a sensor, steering angle sensor, SAS. It's over on the pitman arm in the front. It tells the computer what angle you have your handlebars at. So what is your intentions? You want to go left, right, straight. Very simple. Underneath the seat somewhere, I think it varies model, there's a thing called the yaw sensor. The yaw sensor tells the computer what angle the bike is actually pointed in. Okay, so it knows what direction is forward. So when you turn, it knows that you're turning. Okay, now you also have an electronic throttle, and that comes into play later. So what happens is, if you come in to a turn too hot, you're going to lift the tire up. It's going to sense that that tire is not moving as fast as the other two tires. It's going to apply brakes appropriately. It's going to cut the throttle and drop that wheel down in a perfect world. Oh, it's also tied to the brake pedal. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. There's also a brake pedal sensor. So it knows when you're hitting the brakes. Now, obviously, the computer does a whole bunch of calculations, and it knows, within reason, that your trike cannot handle the activity you're making it do. You're coming in too hot, your bars are turned too much, and you're going too fast, and you're not hitting the brakes. You're not going to be able to complete this maneuver without flipping over. And it's designed to keep you from flipping over. Now, obviously, you can override it by incredibly sudden movements. You know, like if you jerk right and then jerk left, you know, if you're going fast enough, it's not going to be able to slow you down in enough time to bring things down safely. But it's not for nothing, it's a nice thing to have. And now you could obviously lean over more into your turns, okay, and that should theoretically keep the tire down and basically trick the system. Yeah, go ahead, trick the system. As opposed, okay, so the VSS. Now the problem is, and if you see my other videos on the VSS faults, if there is a conflict between any of these systems, the computer doesn't know why, and it will default into limp home mode. You can't go above 50 because it basically disables the system, and it says going over 50 miles an hour is not safe without the system working, and we're not going to let you do it. Now for me, the bane of my existence with this Ryker was the steering angle sensor. So if it's not calibrated correctly, or it was defective, whatever. But that was replaced, and knock on wood, I haven't, I don't want to jinx myself, you know. But this also with new riders too, it's just like they ride the brake pedal. So you give it gas and you hit the brake at the same time, it doesn't know that it's getting in conflict. It says you want to go forward, but you want to stop at the same time. Is there a malfunction? And it'll default. It's that simple. And you get that a lot with new riders that cover the brake. Tires are a safety thing. Yeah, they actually kind of are. So, if you're not totally familiar, two-wheel motorcycle tires are not flat like your car. They're round. So obviously, right off the bat, because they're curved, they have less contact patch with the ground because the ground is flat. So you have a round surface on top of a flat surface. Okay. They do make up with this by usually having a softer rubber compound, which grips the ground more. But they're round because motorcycles have to lean over. And if it's flat and you lean over, there's nothing for it to lean over on. The Trike has car tires. Maybe not car tires per se, but they're flat profile. If you look at the wheel straight on, it's flat like a car tire because Trikes don't lean. You lean. So what does that mean? That means that you have a flat edge or a flat surface on a flat surface. You have more area, more contact with the ground. More contact, more pressure, more traction. That's simple. Now there is a slight trade-off because I don't think that the tire compounds are as soft as two-wheelers, so the tires themselves are not as grippy, but on the whole I think the surface area makes up for it. Let's leave it at that. So more surface area, I think you get better traction than you do on two. So point for the Trikes for having, and I should have even mentioned it, but you also have 3 tires as opposed to 2. So each individual tire has more contact, and you have an additional contact. Okay, I think that's a point. Okay, what else? Probably one thing I will give to two-wheelers is acceleration. All things being considered, you know, one of the other ways of getting, listen, if something's going to happen, you could do one of 3 things. Stay the same speed, increase or decrease. Well, this thing will stop faster than 2 wheels in most cases, but I will have to say, especially if on sport bikes and have bigger motor engines, the two-wheelers might actually out-accelerate you from a situation better than the trike will. Not to say that there isn't power, but these trikes, well, especially the Ryker, it loses its steam the faster it goes. Okay, it has a lot of get up and go down at the bottom, but as you start increasing your speed, it definitely it doesn't have as much. All right, where were we? Oh god, I should have been paying attention, because I finished up this video, did my outro and everything, and realized that it hasn't been recording for the past half an hour. F my life. I don't think this the world wants me to make this video, so I gotta go head back out and record it again. VSS tires. Let's go with stability as well. Stability. This is where the two vehicles are complete opposites. Two wheels and three wheels. Complete opposites when it comes to stability. A two-wheeler is completely unstable when it's not moving. If you leave it alone, it'll fall over. A trike, on the other hand, is at its most stable when it's not moving. Now, the faster you go, the more stable the two-wheelers get, and the more unstable three-wheelers get. All things being relative, of course. But, you know. Maybe another thing that two-wheelers have over three, it might be physical interaction with the bike, with a trike, whatever you want to call it. This thing does not have power steering. The Spyders and RTs do. And as you get faster, that on those models, the power steering fades off. It does take some effort to maneuver a Ryker, that's for sure. It's not overbearing by any sense, but it is what it is. The thing is this, those front spindles, they're on an angle called caster, and what basically that is, and you have this on your car as well, it's what makes those wheels go straight when you pull it in one direction. So you know, so on the Ryker here, they're set in an angle, so the front wheels want to go straight. So when you make a turn, you actually have to overpower that wanting to be straight. Kind of funny, because, you know, a lot of people, when they lose their physical abilities, transition into the three wheels. And like I said, you might need some upper body strain to get this thing to move. Now, that being said, it's actually harder to steer it at low speeds than high speeds. Also, the steering on this thing is incredibly sensitive. Like, you don't have to give it big inputs to get it to turn. It's very in tune with the road, as they say. You will feel every bump, every rut, and it will come through the handlebars, and you're not going to overpower the road. So, you know, what I learned is on this thing is this, make a circle when the road gets really bad, like, especially like right now. Like, I'm bouncing all over the place because this thing is chopped to crap up. You know, just make a little circle with my hand, and then let the thing go where it wants to go. Just, you know, suggest that it's going in the wrong direction, give it a little nudge. Not that difficult. But this thing also has hill hold. So if you're on a hill, the trike knows that it's on an angle, and it will hold the brake for about a second and a half, and allow you to get on the throttle. So if you're on a going uphill, you hit the brake, it'll lock up the brake. So when you take your foot off, give it a second, or you know, like I said, about a second and a half, it'll release and you'll start rolling backwards. But by that time you should be on the throttle, you know, as opposed to two wheels where you have to let the clutch out, give it gas, and if you don't time it right, you don't do enough, you might roll backwards. And especially if someone's up your ass, as they usually do, now you're backing into somebody, and that's not a good time. So we'll also go with size. I do think this is a neutral point, because it works in one way and it doesn't work in the other. So, you know, the Spyders and the Rykers are physically bigger than their two-wheel counterparts, definitely wider. So that might aid in your visibility. I don't know, jury's out on that one. But the flip side of that is you also take up more room. You know, like, look, I'm coming up to this. God forbid something happens. If I was on two wheels, I could probably fit in between this car and this truck. This trike ain't making that. So, I mean, granted, there's probably some two-wheelers. No, you can fit a two-wheeler through there, even with all the full fairings and everything. But this is definitely not fitting through there. So, that being said, if you're in a situation where being small is helpful, you're shit out of luck riding this thing. I mean, it's also what keeps you from lane splitting. Like, let me pull out to the left a little bit. Maybe you could see, if I was on two wheels, I could ride that center line right up to that first car. But if I do it on this, I'm going to be on the other side of the road. Okay, yeah, so size may or may not be helpful. Depends on the situation. That's why I say it's a neutral point. Yeah, this is when you get to the end of your list, that's when it kind of gets tough, especially when you didn't write a script and you're just winging everything. I think that the three-wheelers, because they have car tires, not as susceptible to tire pressure as two wheels are. Maybe. That's a good one. I don't know about that one, but it has a ring of truthiness to it, so I'm going to go with it. The fact that I can back into a spot under the bike's power is good, because being that it's on three wheels, it's stable, so it shouldn't fall over. Although this bike is very unstable at in reverse and high speed, so don't do that. But you know, backing into a spot and not having to use a kickstand, I think that's definitely a point for me, because number one, I don't have to foot it backwards, possibly up a hill. I don't need a kickstand, so it's not going to fall over. You know, when my guys go places, you always see them putting rocks underneath the kickstand, and I'm like just sitting there chuckling a little bit because I don't have to do it. And then that leads to another thing, like some parking spots, if you think about it, you can't physically back it in, so you drive it in and let gravity pull you backwards. Most likely that means that you're going to be backing out of your spot into the traffic. So, as opposed to me, who will back into the spot and then pull forward into traffic, so I have full visibility. Alright, here's another thing. Inclement weather performance. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you're probably better off in the rain and inclement weather on three wheels as opposed to two. You run flat, you don't have to lean, so you can't fall over. You're on three wheels instead of two, you should have more traction, you definitely have more stability. So I do think it's safer for you to be on three wheels than two. I I don't think that's outrageous. The bad thing about being on a trike in bad weather is skidding, and I'm talking mostly about the back wheel. You know, if you're taking something too tight, I think that the back wheel is more prone to sliding out than the front, which I guess is a good thing. So you're gonna fishtail. Not the best thing in the world, but the only benefit is that even if you fishtail, you might hit something, don't get me wrong, that's bad, but you're not gonna fall. You know, the back's gonna come out, and given how fast you're going and what your surroundings are, you might be able to recover from it, you know, because that's the alternative to a low side is on the trike is fishtailing. What would have been a low side on two wheels would probably be a fishtail on a trike, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to call this video quits for the day. I think I've made my point. Out of the box, in normal operation, I do think that the trike is safer than two wheels. Not in every situation, but enough that you could say that it's safer. You know? But nothing's for certain, so, you know, weigh your gear. Don't drive like a maniac, you know, unless there's no one around. Right? So once again, guys, if you made it this far, do appreciate it. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, notifications, would appreciate it. I'm trying to get over 300 by the end of the year. That would be cool. All right, I hope you enjoyed it. Ride safely, and whatever the hell the subject of the next video is, hope to see you there. All right, ride safe.